Hello. From the basement of a house in Long Island, United States, where there's a heavy steel barrel weighing hundreds of kilograms. The house containing this steel barrel has gone through several owners. However, for 30 years, the steel barrel was never opened. Finally, one fine day, a man, out of curiosity, opened the steel barrel to investigate. And so, a horrifying secret that had been hidden for 35 years was revealed. The story takes place in 1999 in New York State, USA. New York is located in the northeast of the United States and is one of the most economically developed states in America. This story unfolds in Long Island. Long Island is an island located in the southeast of New York State, in Nassau County. On Long Island, there was a homeowner named Cohen who had lived in this town for 9 years. One day in 1999, Cohen planned to move elsewhere. While packing his belongings, he accidentally found a steel barrel that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Next, let's travel back in time to September 2nd, 1999. September 2nd, 1999 was a Thursday. Cohen, the homeowner, was planning to move and had been clearing out unnecessary items so that the new owner could move in at any time. Early that morning, Cohen hired some movers and a truck to come to his house. They skillfully moved furniture of all sizes and some items that needed to be discarded out of the house. However, the moving work didn't last long, for someone encountered an obstacle. One of the movers found a large steel barrel in the basement of the house. The surface of the barrel was rusted, the writing on it unclear. Perhaps the barrel had existed here for many years. Then, the mover stepped forward, trying to lift the barrel. He tried his best, but the barrel didn't budge. He called for help. At that time, 2 others came down to assist him. All 3 had to struggle to move the steel barrel from the basement to the open yard in front of the house. One of them told the homeowner, Cohen, that the barrel was too heavy. "We can't lift it onto the truck for you. We can only move it here. You'll have to find a way to deal with it yourself." When Cohen saw the barrel, he suddenly remembered that the barrel had been in the basement when he moved in 9 years ago. At that time, he also wanted to throw away the barrel to clean up the mess. But the barrel was too heavy and he couldn't move it. So he had left the barrel there for the past 9 years. Cohen thought more and became curious, really wanting to see what was inside the barrel that made it so heavy. He immediately got a crowbar, returned to the open space in front of the house, and tried to pry open the lid of the barrel. When he pried open the lid, unexpectedly a foul smell hit him straight in the face, making him dizzy. He glanced inside and saw something dark inside. However, out of curiosity, he endured the stench and looked carefully inside. He saw a shoe and a human hand inside. Frightened, he stepped back a few steps and ran straight into the house to call the police. Not long after, the police quickly arrived at the scene. After arriving, they set up barriers around the barrel to prevent curious onlookers from getting close. The appearance of the barrel had broken the peace of the town. Curious residents flocked to the scene to see what was happening. The police initially concluded that there was a dead body in the barrel. To preserve the evidence, the police dared not act hastily, so they took the entire steel barrel back to the laboratory. The capacity of the barrel was about 208 liters, weighing about 160 kilograms. The technicians in the laboratory took nearly 3 hours to remove all the items from the steel barrel. Inside the steel barrel was a woman. She was dressed neatly, but in a vintage style from a few decades ago. In the barrel were many white and black spherical plastic particles, with a lot of green liquid inside. The liquid was identified as from dye, and everything inside was soaked in it. A handbag was found inside, containing a makeup barrel, a lipstick, and an eyelash curler. There was an address book, 2 metal rings, one of which had the letters MHR on it, and a metal necklace engraved with the words, "To Patrick. Love, Uncle Phil," on the face. Among these pieces of evidence, the most important was the address book. If they could read what was written inside the book, the police would have a very good chance of confirming the identity of the woman in the steel barrel. However, the book had been soaked in liquid for many years, soft to the point where a pen could pierce through it, making it very difficult to recover the contents inside. The forensic examination determined that the victim's body still contained a 9-month-old fetus. The cause of death was due to blunt trauma to the back of the head. Then, the investigators began to verify the identity of the victim. They were looking for a small Hispanic woman about 1.5 meters tall among the missing persons across New York State. However, such screening criteria were clearly not enough, as there were too many missing persons who fit these two characteristics. Therefore, police decided to adjust the direction of the investigation, placing hope in the evidence inside the barrel. On the steel barrel, the serial number and name of a chemical plant were still recognizable. Police then went to New Jersey, where the chemical plant was headquartered. According to the serial number, the chemical plant discovered that the steel barrel had been produced 34 years ago, in 1965. That barrel was used to contain dye. The man at the chemical plant said that type of dye had not been produced since 1971. At the same time, the police also investigated the homeowner Cohen and wanted to ask him where he got the barrel from. Cohen said that when he moved into the house 9 years ago, that is, in 1990, he had discovered a very heavy steel barrel in the basement. He had tried but could not move it. Although a bit curious about what was inside, when he saw the chemical symbol on the barrel, gave up on the idea of opening it to check. Cohen looked calm and didn't seem to be lying, though the police removed him from the list of suspects. According to the investigation, the house had gone through a total of 4 owners. Through the connection between the owners, police finally confirmed that the barrel had been there since the first owner in the 1960s. The homeowner was Howard Elkins, who had now retired and was living in Florida. The police met with elderly neighbors around to ask about the first homeowner of the house. They said that Elkins was the owner of a company. He ran several plastic manufacturing companies in Manhattan. When the police heard this, they immediately thought of the large amount of granular material in the steel barrel made of plastic. And the first owner, Elkins, was the owner of a plastic product manufacturing plant. Could they be related? From these suspicions, police followed each trace and discovered that Elkins was a shareholder of a company that mainly produced plastic flowers, plastic grass, and decorative items in the 1960s. They also knew that during that time, the plastic factory had also purchased a batch of dye from the factory in New Jersey to dye plastic grass, plastic trees, and other decorative products. Information about finding the woman in the steel barrel quickly spread in the media. Soon after, the police received an anonymous call from someone saying they knew some secrets about the barrel. The barrel was specially used to contain chemicals. Although he didn't know who was inside the barrel, he knew a person named Elkins was a shareholder of the plastic factory and had a romantic relationship with a woman at the plastic factory in the 1960s. Coincidentally, this was exactly the topic the police were investigating, so it further strengthened the police's belief. Based on the evidence collected, the police decided to find Elkins for investigation. At that time, Elkins was 70 years old and had retired. He no longer lived in New York, but had moved to Florida long ago. When he saw the police, he refused to cooperate, but still had to reluctantly invite the police into his home. Police showed a photo and asked him, "Did your factory ever use dye barrels like this?" He replied, "My factory has never used such steel barrels." The police continued, "Did you ever use green dye in your factory?" Elkins replied that his factory had never used dye. They didn't need chemicals. We all know that before meeting Elkins, police had conducted a very thorough investigation of his company, but his answers were completely opposite to the police's investigation results. Clearly, Elkins was lying. The more he denied, the more the police felt that he was the person they were looking for. Police continued, "Have you ever had an affair?" Contrary to the police's expectations, Elkins actually admitted to having an extramarital relationship, but he said it was just a relationship over 35 years ago, and it had been so long that he had even forgotten what his lover looked like. Then, the police took out a DNA sampling. Notably, at that time, DNA testing technology had developed a lot. This technology was very useful in criminal investigation. If they could get Elkins' DNA, they could determine whether the fetus of the woman in the barrel belonged to Elkins or not. So the police asked Elkins, "Can you provide us with a sample of your DNA?" Elkins, after hearing the question, felt the police's request was unreasonable, so he asked the police to leave his house. At the laboratory, the recovery of evidence in the barrel was still ongoing. After diligent work, forensic lab technicians succeeded in recovering part of the information in the address book. They discovered that the second line of one of the pages clearly said, Mr. Elkins. Behind the name was an address and phone number, but it couldn't be contacted. In addition, on another page of the address book, there was a name, Kathy, and a phone number below. The police tried to contact, and luckily, they met the owner of that phone number, Kathy. The police described the whole story and told Kathy. After listening, she immediately pointed out that the pregnant woman in the barrel was her friend. She said Reina was from El Salvador. More than 35 years ago, she was an English teacher at a foreign language school, and Reina was a student in her English class. Because they were the same age, they were very close to each other. In 1966, Reina, 26 years old, came to New York alone from El Salvador. She rented an apartment from a local person and lived alone there. Not long after, she found a job at a plastic flower company. Reina had a wonderful personality, and she always asked her parents back home for advice when making any decisions. She liked shopping and dreamed of one day becoming an American citizen. Kathy said that before disappearing, Reina had told her that she was pregnant, but didn't reveal who the father of the baby was. She only knew that the man was married and had 3 children. Kathy asked Reina if the man would marry her, and Reina replied, "Of course." Kathy continued to tell that once, Reina called her and said that she found out the man had no intention of marrying her. In the evening, she didn't know what to do, so she called the man's house. Unfortunately, the person who answered the phone was his wife. Then she told the wife all about the illicit relationship and her pregnancy. After the call ended, that man called back with an angry tone and even threatened to kill her. She was very scared and confused, not knowing what to do next, so she called Kathy to confide. After hearing the call, Kathy was very worried about Reina, so she went straight to Reina's house. When she arrived, she found the apartment unlocked. She ran straight into the house looking for Reina, but found no one. She waited there for 3 hours and tried to contact in every way but couldn't find Reina anywhere. So she immediately went to the police station to report the incident. At that time, for fear of affecting Reina's reputation, Kathy did not tell the police about Reina's lover threatening to kill her over the phone. The police at that time just thought that Reina had just gone shopping somewhere. And finally, her disappearance remained an unsolved case until more than 30 years later when the truth was revealed. After hearing Kathy's story, the police believed that Elkins, a major shareholder of the plastic factory, was the mysterious man who had an affair with Reina. That night, he had lured her to the factory and killed her. Then, he transported her body to his private home. It was speculated that he had planned to dump her body into the sea. So, he had put her in a steel barrel containing dye to ensure that the barrel would sink into the sea. He filled the barrel with various substances, mainly some plastic products from his own company. After filling the barrel and tightening the lid, he realized that he had miscalculated the weight of the barrel. It reached 160 kilograms, too heavy for him to move onto the boat by himself. In desperation, he had no choice but to place the steel barrel in the basement for 35 years without anyone discovering the secret. If it weren't for the 4th homeowner, Cohen, who out of curiosity opened the steel cabinet, perhaps the secret would still not have been revealed to the public. With this, the police had listed Elkins as the #1 suspect. The police quickly requested an arrest warrant to obtain his DNA sample. When the police came to the house to take a DNA sample, Elkins' wife said he had disappeared. Finally, he was found dead in the garage. He was sitting in the back seat of the car, blood splattered all over the seat, and beside him was a gun. The police determined that he had committed suicide and was not intentionally killed by anyone. Afterwards, the police took his DNA sample, and the result matched the fetus up to 99.93%. This result confirmed the police's speculation was correct. At that point, everything had been clarified, but because Elkins was dead, the real information about the case could not be known clearly. A reporter named Oscar Corral reported on the case after the truth was revealed on Newsday. In addition, he also tried to go to El Salvador to look for the victims' relatives. Finally, he also found Reina's mother, who was 95 years old at the time. When she learned that her missing daughter had been found after 35 years, she burst into tears. Greatest wish was to meet her daughter, and Reina had to pay with her own life, the love triangle. On the last page of the address book, there was a line. That line might have been written by Reina herself to Elkins. Those words revealed her helplessness and desperation. Don't be angry with me for telling the truth. And see you again in the next videos. Goodbye.